secretly, I sent my resume to an American sort of recruiting firm. And I had a call at a company called Sega. I had no idea what it was, but they are looking for someone to launch their new video game business in the States.
And so it was, late in the 20th century, terminal boredom swept the countryside. The maker looked down and was not pleased by what he saw. And so it was, he brought forth Genesis.
The moment I started to work for Sega of America, I started to commute to Sega San Francisco headquarters because my family actually lived in Texas, and I stayed always in comfort suites. This small hotel room became my home away from home. I checked in there in, I think, October of '89. And by the way, I haven't checked out ever since.
I don't think many people knew. I mean, I'm still shocked that he still stays there personally, but I lived there for about a year and a half when I first started at Sega.
Hi, welcome to Sega.
It was hard to build an organization from scratch and launch a major video game system in the United States. There's so many hurdles to get into the business with all the retailers. You know, they just won't buy from anybody. You have to prove yourself.
The challenges we had in those days were the very strong presence of Nintendo.
Nintendo Power magazine goes out bi-monthly to players all around the country. Right now it's about 1.7 million. On a weekly average, we've got about 140,000 phone calls in here.
The key is in the hidden town. You have to cast a spell at the dead end.
Nintendo Power.
Another Nintendo game!
And parents are now faced with portable Nintendo.
Say what you want about Nintendo, but they were pretty cocky about their position and felt assured that we wouldn't have much success.
Nintendo's a very, very strong company, and so far its competition hasn't been more than a blip on the screen.
This is the Sega Genesis. This is their next generation video game machine.
The first year, the expectation was to sell 1 million units of Sega Genesis, but sales was not that great.
We were struggling at the time, no doubt about it.
The president at that time held a weekly lineup meeting, and he always somehow seemed to forgot about what we discussed previous week, so it repeated and repeated and repeated and so forth.
So we were stuck between a rock and a hard place.
We needed someone to turn the tide around, so Sega brought in Tom Kalinske, the prince of toy business.
When I was about to graduate, I got a job with J. Walter Thompson in New York City. We were given the assignment to develop a new children's vitamin, and we developed Flintstones vitamins.
Yabba dabba doo! Yabba dabba doo! Oh, great idea, Fred!
Within 6 months, it was the #1 vitamin in the United States.
Yabba dabba doo!
But shortly thereafter, the Senate had a subcommittee on children's advertising.
Super Sugar Crisp is coated with super sugar to make it taste so sweet.
The feeling at the time was that children's sugar cereal advertising and somehow children's vitamins advertising was bad. And the next thing I know, Senator Margaret Chase Smith looks at me and says, "So, Mr. Kalinske, you think selling drugs to children is a good idea?" And so I read a letter that a mom had actually written to me that talked about how grateful she was because we're selling a vitamin that the children actually want to take. And I said, "By the way, I have 5,000 more letters like that. Would you like me to read some more of them to you?" And she said, "No, Mr. Kalinske, that's enough." Well, the Mattel guys were there. And the next thing I know, they flew me out and I was offered a job.
You can tell it's Mattel. It's swell.
Ruth Handler found
It's me, Mario! Hello,